Exactly 11 years ago, on February 26, 2013, a group of 24 people were to embark on an unforgettable hot air balloon trip. 19 tourists, as well as a tour guide and a pilot, a total of 21 people, planned to fly early in the morning at dawn over the outskirts of the Egyptian city of Luxor, where the architectural monuments of ancient Egypt and the tombs of the pharaohs are located. The faces of tourists reflect the mixed emotions one would expect from travelers about to embark on an exciting holiday adventure. Some are smiling and waving, while others look anxious as they prepare to take to the skies in a hot air balloon for the first time. For many of the tourists on board, this was to be the highlight of the vacation, flying against the backdrop of a magnificent rising sun over the Valley of the Kings of Egypt. But a few minutes after the start of the exciting journey, something terrible would happen, and almost no one would ever return from there. The ancient Egyptian city of Luxor is located on the eastern shore of the Nile River. This city was once called Thebes. Here, pharaohs and nobles built underground tombs and giant memorial temples. This city is a major destination for tourists visiting Egypt's many ruins and monuments. Local tour companies offer tourists a hot air balloon flight to enjoy a bird's-eye view of the ancient city. Various Egyptian firms simultaneously offer excursion itineraries on two Soras. The air excursions are put on a stream. Every day, 5 to 7 balloons take to the air, and the first one takes off at dawn. Experts estimate the balloon flight as an extreme type, which requires from tourists the maximum responsibility, and from the organizers, strict compliance with safety standards, availability of a license, and briefing before the flight. The air is heated by a gas burner, which is installed in the center of the passenger area. It can be said that the main control mechanism is in the pilot's head. Everything depends only on his experience of piloting the balloon, his ability to work with the gas burner and valves. Thanks to this, it is possible to change the trajectory of the balloon and its height. On February 26, 2013, around 5 o'clock in the morning, a group of tourists consisting of 19 people left their hotels. Among them were 9 Hong Kong nationals, 5 women and 4 men, 2 elderly couples from Japan, 3 British nationals, 2 from France, and 1 Hungarian national. At about 6 a.m., all the tourists, after receiving the necessary instruction, climb into the balloon basket one by one. The basket has several compartments for passengers, and each compartment holds 3-4 people. A couple from Scotland, Michael Rennie, 49, and his wife Evan, 48, were in great spirits. This hot air balloon flight was their second. Another couple, 40-year-old Britton Joe Bampton and his 34-year-old girlfriend Suzanne Gatway, took off in a hot air balloon for the first time, and the couple was overwhelmed with positive emotions. At 6 hours and 15 minutes in the morning, Sky Cruises Ultramedic H425 hot air balloon lifted off the ground and took off on a sightseeing tour. At the time of liftoff, the balloon was carrying 19 tourists, 1 tour guide and 27-year-old pilot, Momin Murat. The happy tourists waved goodbye to everyone watching from the ground, and the balloon went on its way. After gaining the necessary height, the balloon began to fly over the ancient monuments in the normal mode. It was supposed that the whole excursion would take about half an hour. To illustrate how the flight over the Valley of the Kings takes place, I suggest to watch a fragment of the following video. This flight was carried out 12 days earlier. On February 14, 2013, the balloon flew towards the desert for more than 8 kilometers before the pilot began to prepare for landing. At this point, Momin Murat radioed a member of the ground crew. The pilot reports that he has chosen an open area to land near sugarcane fields. When the ground team arrives at the designated location, Murat lowers the cable from the basket to the ground. The time is 6:50. 10 people grab the rope and gradually lower the balloon. When the basket of the balloon was already less than 3 meters from the ground, the gas pipe of the burner burst and ignited. There was a violent pop of gas, and the wicker basket of the balloon caught fire. At that moment, the pilot Momin Murat, who had been hit by the shock wave of fire, jumped overboard from a height of 3 meters. 1 second later, one of the passengers, Briton Michael Rennie, jumps overboard. The pilot's clothes are engulfed in flames, and some of the crew members throw a rope to assist him. As team members rushed to the pilot's aid, the rest of the crew were unable to hold the balloon and let go of the ropes, leading to further devastating consequences. No one expected it, but the balloon, with the basket engulfed in flames, began to rise upward uncontrollably and very quickly. Rennie Michael could watch in horror as his spouse, who remained in the basket, was lifted into the sky. The man ran 200 meters following the balloon, screaming at the top of his voice, "My wife! My wife!" But his wife was beyond help. As the balloon rose upward, at a height of between 20 and 70 meters, about 5 people jumped from the basket into a field of sugarcane. One of them turned out to be a Briton named Joe Bampton. 15 seconds later, as the fire grew stronger, the balloon reached an altitude of 300 meters. At that very moment, there is a powerful pop of the gas cylinder. The shell of the balloon became like thin pieces of cloth. Fragments of the balloon and the basket, with passengers in free fall, rushed to the ground. Rescuers who arrived on the scene collected the charred remains of the balloon, gas canisters and other fragments, and the bodies were scattered chaotically across the field. As a result of the crash, 18 tourists died on the spot. The pilot and 2 British passengers were sent to hospital, but after a 5-hour operation, Joe Bampton never regained consciousness again. Earlier, he jumped from the basket at a height of 50 meters. Pilot Momin Murat was conscious. He could talk, but 70% of his body suffered high-temperature damage. For his part, Michael Rennie sobbed in the hospital as he realized he had lost his wife. The final moments of the balloon flight were filmed by various eyewitnesses. One of the clips was taken from another balloon. The whole incident took just over 2 minutes. The pilot Momin Murat was a professional with about 10 years of experience in ballooning and was well known in Luxor as an experienced pilot. After the accident became known, the governor of Luxor banned the time for balloon flights. The head of the Luxor Chamber of Tourism blamed the civil aviation authorities for the incident. He said the officials were not doing their job. They were not checking the balloons and were just issuing licenses without checking. But the authorities were quick to refute the accusation, noting that the balloon in question had recently been inspected. Authorities also said that Pivot should have shut off the gas valves and tried to put out the fire instead of escaping and thus contributing to the accident. Local media suggested that the incident will damage Egypt's already weakened tourism industry. A local balloon operator, angered by the closure of the industry, expressed outrage. "You will take away the livelihoods of nearly 3,000 people who live off this type of tourism." But in turn, the minister promised that the downtime of the ballooning industry would be less than a month. On January 7, 2014, the Egyptian Civil Aviation Authority published its final report on the incident. The report stated that the cause of the ignition was a fuel leak caused by a faulty gas hose connection. The hose was manufactured in 2005 and has accumulated a large number of flight hours, sometimes in unfavorable conditions. This service life and operating conditions increased the likelihood that the hose had weaknesses, defects that could have led to a gas leak. The report also refers to the pilot's failure to inform the control tower at Luxor Airport before takeoff. The report mentions that the pilot of the balloon was engulfed in flames, making him unable to control the balloon or even control himself. The investigation team took a statement from the pilot at the military hospital, where he was undergoing treatment. Murat claimed that he was unable to conclusively determine the source of the flames, after which the pilot attempted to raise the fire extinguisher but was thrown back by the intensity of the flames. According to the pilot, he did not smell any gas. He also claimed that he was unconscious when he jumped out of the basket onto the ground. The pilot also insisted that he had no need to check the section of the hose where the fire originated. Murat argued that this job should be the responsibility of the maintenance engineer. However, the prosecutor said that both the pilot and the maintenance engineer failed to check the necessary equipment before takeoff. The Luxor incident in 2013 was not the only balloon accident in the region. The same balloon had been involved in an earlier incident in October 2011. The video footage shows the balloon nearly hitting the roof of a hotel in Luxor before falling into the River Nile. Fortunately, all passengers on board the flight were only frightened. The Sky Cruise operator then paid compensation to everyone on the itinerary. Flying in a hot air balloon is a very beautiful activity, but one should always remember that this beauty is also strongly associated with certain risks.